Bearley turned the 9mm Glock semi-automatic handgun on himself. An investigation revealed the potential motives behind the man's killing spree. Bearley was a military veteran who'd been charged with battery twice in the past for groping women. He'd also worked as a substitute teacher but was let go, in at least one instance, for inappropriately touching a female student. Bearley was part of the involuntary celibate community and harbored intense feeling of resentment towards women. Some of his social media rants also targeted African Americans and illegal immigration. According to the FBI and Tallahassee PD, he'd planned the attack on the yoga studio months in advance. Law enforcement confirmed Bearley's hatred of the opposite sex while stating that he was in a disturbed mental state at the time of the shooting. Number 11. Crocodile attack in Cairns. In January of 2021, an unnamed man was attacked by a crocodile at a lake in Cairns, Australia. The 44-year-old was in the water at a popular Lake Placid tourist spot. As he was swimming, he felt the massive reptile's jaws clamp on his head. The reptile then started chewing on the man's skull. Amazingly, he was able to pry the jaws open and free himself. He then had the presence of mind to slowly swim to shore, so as not to alert the apex predator of his continued presence. Bystanders rushed to his aid and called the authorities. He was taken to Cairns Hospital with puncture marks on his skull, jaw, and cheekbone. Fortunately, none of the crocodile's teeth had penetrated the arteries in the man's neck, which could have caused him to bleed out. He was expected to make a full recovery and, in spite of his brush with death, vowed to return for a second dip in the lake. Number 10. Kristen McKellar. On August the 2nd of 2018, Kristen McKellar suffered fatal injuries after she was struck by a motorboat at Damaris Cotter Lake in Maine. The 32-year-old woman was swimming with a friend at about 8:45 p.m. She was hit by the boat, reportedly driven at imprudent speed by 43-year-old Jonathan Roberts. He and his passengers immediately helped the victim to shore and called the authorities. McKellar passed away in a hospital from her injuries the following day. McKellar's family was outraged by the deal that Roberts' legal defense team was subsequently able to obtain. Since the chance of securing a manslaughter conviction was considered low, the charge was dropped in exchange for Roberts pleading guilty to reckless operation of a watercraft. He was given a $400 fine and sentenced to 100 hours of community service. Number 9. Great Salt Lake boat accident. In November of 2012, best friends Logan Hardman and Chad Tohinaka, both aged 25, died in a boating accident on Utah's Great Salt Lake. The two men, accompanied by a friend, were returning from a regular duck hunting trip when the weather suddenly changed. The 12-foot flat-bottomed boat they were in was unable to withstand the waves. The vessel capsized, and all three men were sent into the frigid 47-degree water. Their friend, whose name wasn't released, survived after swimming half a mile to shore to look for help. Hardman and Tokinaka tragically succumbed to the raging waters and freezing temperatures. Their lifeless bodies were recovered from the water later that day.
And how are the numbers looking?
We're landing at a strong 70. Ooh, SPF.
Thanks to JetBlue's low fares, Kayla's in vacation mode already.
Number 8. Lake Macquarie shark attack.
Parenthood teaches a lot of things. Compassion, responsibility, and most of all, sacrifice. The safety and well-being of your children is a parent's top priority. Laura Ackerson, a successful businesswoman, was a month away from finally getting full custody of her children, and things were looking up for her. But on the fateful day of July 13th, 2011, Laura was nowhere to be found. Did she abandon her children? And would she really abandon everything and everyone when she was so close to the end of a messy custody battle? Or had something gone terribly wrong? Laura Jean Ackerson was born on April 30th, 1984, to parents Roger and Brenda Ackerson. Growing up, Laura was a cheerful and happy kid with an outgoing and fun personality. She also attended the Grace Fellowship Church with her family and was an absolute sweetheart and gentle soul. Now, not a lot is known about her early childhood, but Laura's perfect family crumbled to bits in 1996. See, her parents couldn't stand each other and constantly fought. And as a result, Laura was just 12 years old when her parents got divorced. The separation was a major blow to Laura's emotional state, and ever since then, she was emotionally insecure. Divorce is something no child should have to go through, and Laura's case makes this particularly obvious. Following the divorce, Laura and her mother Brenda moved to Iowa, and Laura attended Linville-Sully High School, and then attended Kirkwood Community College to study graphic design. Laura had a sharp eye for art and creativity, and she was amazed at expressing herself with different colors, patterns, and digital art. Not long after, Laura moved to Kinston, North Carolina to start fresh, where she attended J.Y. Monk Real Estate School. She started working in marketing and graphic design and also made new friends, specifically in Raleigh, with her business partners Siobhan Moffs and Heidi Shoemaker, who soon became Laura's best friends. Laura loved the fact that she had permanent friends, because growing up, she was always alone and didn't have any contact with her old friends since she moved around a lot. She was ecstatic that she'd finally found her tribe. One night at a local restaurant in March of 2007, Laura met a man, Grant Hayes. Grant was born on the 30th of April, 1979, in Raleigh, North Carolina. The fact that Laura and Grant had the same birthday was one of the things that the pair bonded over. Not much is known about Grant's childhood either, but what we do know is that he was religious, had a knack for making music, and became locally famous, working small gigs in bars and restaurants. Grant was a charming guy and knew how to woo the ladies. When he was 18, he graduated high school and met and fell in love with a woman named Emily Lovers. The relationship escalated fast, and before you knew it, they were married. But the marriage fizzled out as quickly as it peaked, and they got divorced, which was a significant point in Grant's life, because Emily was his muse. He wrote songs about her and was inspired by their relationship. But when all of that came tumbling down, well, so did Grant. He was diagnosed with bipolar disorder and depression. He was prescribed very potent drugs like lithium, but soon he started to turn to alcohol and dabbled in much harder substances as well. It was pretty clear that Grant couldn't function without these drugs, and he was already paving his way towards a dark road. But when he got addicted to a synthetic hallucinogen, things only took a turn for the worse. He was already egotistical and narcissistic, but suddenly he got more violent and manipulative. Grant also started to have delusions. He believed that aliens ruled the government and that he was a, quote, chosen one, and that he needed a spaceship to survive the apocalypse. He also didn't believe in vaccination and immunization because he believed they caused autism. I'm gonna love seeing the debates in the comments about this one. Somehow, with all of these delusions and drug abuse, Grant's music career picked up and he got frequent gigs in Raleigh around the same time that he met Laura. But while to the outside world things appeared to be going perfectly for Grant, this was far from the truth, and Laura would soon find herself on the receiving end of Grant's abuse and controlling demeanor.
To prove that you can get just as strong at Planet Fitness, we're seeing if people can tell the difference between our 75-pound dumbbell and a 75-pound dumbbell from an overpriced competitor gym. Okay, the old...
Grant was physically and emotionally abusive towards Laura, and he also repeatedly cheated on her. Laura, already being emotionally insecure, led a struggling actress and a single mother, having landed a few uncredited roles in movies and TV shows like The Sopranos and Stepford Wives. Grant immediately took a liking to Amanda, mainly because she was wealthy and had almost $200,000 in cash and $80,000 worth of jewelry, possibly as alimony for her prior divorce, but we don't know this for sure. Meanwhile, Grant, at the time of meeting Amanda, was completely broke. The two quickly got into a relationship, and Grant finally had something over Laura that he could rub in her face. He openly cheated on Laura with Amanda, ridiculing her to no end. But Grant couldn't have expected what Laura did next, as she finally had enough, something Grant thought would never happen. Laura was fed up and decided to draw the line. She announced that she wanted to leave Grant for good. Grant's own family, and even his ex-wife Emily, sided with Laura, telling her to leave him as soon as possible, as they knew how controlling Grant really was. But Laura found out that she was pregnant with her second child, and even though Grant didn't deserve it, she decided to give him a second chance. But really, this is probably more like Grant's 9th or 10th chance. It goes to show how much Laura adored her children and was always willing to put them first. It also just goes to show how badly the divorce of Laura's parents must have affected her, as she was now willing to go to the ends of the earth to never become the victim of a divorce for a second time, even if it meant wrecking her own mental health to do it. Understandably, pregnant Laura decided to move to the Virgin Islands with Grant Jr. to be with her husband, a fact that Grant didn't appreciate at all, as she would now have eyes on him 24/7. Fast forward to Laura's second son, Gentle, and he was born. Unfortunately, he had a lot of health issues at birth, and the family needed to be close to a better health facility to monitor him. Ultimately, the Hayes family moved back to North Carolina, and you guessed it, Grant was furious. He blamed everything on Laura and the children, that he lost lucrative work opportunities and that they had forced him to move out of the Virgin Islands. Everything was their fault. All the while, Amanda was still in contact with him, and she even moved to New York and convinced Grant to explore the industry there. We all know by this point that Grant just wanted to be close to Amanda and away from Laura and his children because he didn't want the responsibility.
Now, with Dell's AI PCs, teams can work as fast as a moving...
Grant eventually moved to New York, and he loved it there. There was a lot of work for him to get involved in, and he was close to Amanda, which seems to have been priority number one. He even asked Laura if he could take Grant Jr. with him for a diaper photo shoot, promising to return him immediately afterward. Laura was initially hesitant, but she let him go in the end because she wanted the kids to have a good relationship with their father. But little did she know, Grant had other malicious intentions. See, when Grant didn't return Grant Jr. as promised, a concerned Laura checked Facebook, and she was shocked by what she discovered. Grant had married Amanda in New York, married her, and they were living together with Grant Jr. Just let that sink in for a moment. The sheer terror that Laura must have felt in that moment, I can't even fathom. Laura was obviously distraught, and she called Grant to confront him, but she was about to get another incredibly bizarre surprise. Grant revealed to Laura that he and Laura were never legally married to begin with, and when a confused Laura checked her marriage certificate for confirmation, her suspicions became a true nightmare. Grant's signature was missing from the document, and if you thought this was bad enough, there's more. Grant and Amanda had filed for emergency custody of Grant Jr., and since technically Laura and Grant weren't married, and there were no custody agreements made beforehand, Laura lost the custody of her two children. And get this, all of this happened without Laura even knowing. Grant showed up to these hearings alone and testified that Laura was an unfit mother because she was a full-time mom with no house and no job. The court, without even hearing Laura's side of the story, gave full custody to Grant. It was unbelievable. How could a person take a child away from their mother without so much as hearing the other side of the story? I'm just going to be honest about this. A lot of these cases, they get me a bit worked up. Truthfully, I get pretty emotional when working on nearly every one of these videos, but when hearing what Grant did to Laura, it made me physically sick. But the thing Grant didn't know was that Laura was a fighter, and she was going to do everything to get her kids back. Shortly after, she presented evidence in court that showed that Grant was abusive and a sociopath. Because of these new findings, the court decided to have psychiatric evaluations for both parents. And in the meantime, Laura could have the kids on the weekends, and she could talk to them on the phone every day. But Grant and Amanda, who was pregnant at the time of his child, ruined these precious moments for Laura. They would often interrupt her calls with them, and she barely got more than a couple of minutes to speak to her children throughout the week. Laura was beside herself and overwhelmed, but she still had her best friend Heidi by her side, with whom she shared everything. Laura even shared a very chilling detail with Heidi in the midst of the custody battle, that if anything were to happen to her, it would be Grant's doing. This is terrifying to hear, no matter the circumstance. But remember the psych evaluation ordered by the court? Well, Grant failed it miserably. He had no bond with the kids, and they actually preferred Laura's presence. Go figure. Laura was also shown as a tender and affectionate mother, who always looked out for her boys, no matter what. In light of this, the court ordered a detailed evaluation of Grant, and around the same time, Amanda, Grant's new wife, gave birth to a girl, Lillian, on June 9th, 2011. Things were eventful as far as the custody was concerned. The court ordered a 3-2 schedule for the parents, in which one parent would get the kids for 3 days, the other would get them for 2 days, and then they would switch up. But to say that Grant was nearing his breaking point by now, well, that's no joke. He became extremely angry and agitated. And soon, very tragically, everything came crashing down. On July 13, 2011, just a month before the next custody hearing, Laura was supposed to have a business meeting with her friend and business partner, Siobhan, later that evening. But she didn't show up or even call. Siobhan thought that this was strange, but decided to let it go because he knew that Laura mentioned that she was going to have to meet with Grant and get her boys at his apartment on that same day. Cell phone records showed that Laura had texted Grant that she was on her way, although she didn't get a reply from him. Anyway, after 5 days of no contact with anyone, 27-year-old Laura was officially reported missing by her friends and family on July 18th. Police officers immediately went to Laura's apartment and found it in ordinary condition. CCTV footage also showed Laura leaving her apartment, but she never returned. They went to Grant and Amanda's apartment in Raleigh next, which was almost 90 minutes away from Laura's, with a search warrant, and they immediately noticed something was very wrong. Not only were Grant and Amanda not home, but upon entering, officers were struck with a very strong smell of bleach, which is never a good sign in a crime investigation. The space was immaculately clean, and officers also noticed some things missing from the apartment. A shower curtain, a vacuum cleaner, and a couple of rugs were missing, and there were bleached patches on the floor, too. Police also found 2 pieces of paper, both of which were equally appalling. The first one was a song that Grant was working on, titled Man Killer. The song's lyrics entailed a woman getting brutally killed by strangulation. The other piece of paper was a letter that had Laura's handwriting and signature on it. It was an agreement of sorts between Laura and Grant, and that she would give up custody of her boys for $25,000. Now, this is immediately fishy for anyone who knows Laura, because the kids were her universe, and she would never give them up for money. On top of that, the custody battle had nothing to do with money, at least not for Laura. She truly just wanted her kids with her. The police knew that they needed to track Grant and Amanda down before it was too late. Through CCTV footage, the police found out that Grant and Amanda had been in the midst of a lot of activity after July 13th. Amanda was seen with the kids at a local Chick-fil-A. Meanwhile, Grant went shopping in the early hours of July 14th to a Walmart and a Target in Raleigh. But the things that Grant bought were extremely alarming. He purchased goggles, trash bags, a reciprocating saw, blades, bleach, tape, and a lint roller. Now, I don't know about you, but if this doesn't scream suspicious, I don't know what will. Amanda, on that same day, called her daughter Shaw and told her to take the kids and look after them for a good chunk of the day. Then, on July 16th, Grant made another purchase at a local store, and this time he bought lots of ice and coolers. Shortly after, he rented a U-Haul trailer, and he and Amanda and the 2 boys went to Richmond, Texas, because Grant wanted to take Amanda for a visit to her sister, Karen Barry. They arrived sometime around July 19th. But interestingly, Grant made yet another purchase at a Home Depot, and he bought heavy-duty gloves and 8 bottles of acid. The police were obviously concerned by all of these details, and they decided to make a trip to Texas to talk to Amanda's sister, Karen. She had a lot of things to say, which further shocked the officers. Karen said that on the night of July 19th, Grant and Amanda had asked her to borrow a boat to go to Oyster Creek, a deep canal with a lot of vegetation, murky waters, and tons of alligators. Karen and her son, Sheldon Barry, also recalled the strange questions that Grant and Amanda asked, like if the alligators of Oyster Creek ate humans, if wild hogs ate human flesh, and if there were bloodthirsty sharks in Texas. Karen and Sheldon chalked these questions up to the morbid curiosity of city folk visiting the countryside. But the police knew that the odds weren't looking good for Laura. Upon hearing this, the police jumped into action. A team was sent to Oyster Creek to look for any evidence, and another team went on to scout for CCTV cameras in Texas, and both hit a jackpot. But sadly, what the police were dreading came true. In Oyster Creek, after hours of treading through murky and dangerous waters with endless lily pads, officers found well, most of Laura. It's just so tragic and heartbreaking to think that she was going to meet her children, but she fell straight into the hands of such a vicious monster and was dehumanized to the extreme. This vile man literally turned her into fish food. Her remains were so badly damaged that an official cause of death was an uphill task to figure out. But it was eventually concluded that she passed away either by manual strangulation or a strong blow to the back of the neck. If you think back to Grant's so-called song that he wrote, everything was just so barbaric, and it proves that Grant had planned on taking Laura's life all along. Chief Deputy Brady, who was on Laura's case, termed the scene as the most gruesome one of his career in 30 years. Police knew for certain that Grant and Amanda were behind the horrific passing of Laura, and their suspicions were solidified on July 20th, 2011. Laura's car, a 2006 white Ford Focus, was discovered near Grant's apartment, parked in a haphazard way. The inside of the car was washed, and there was also damage to the rear end of the car. On top of that, CCTV footage of Amanda dumping bottles of acid near Karen's home was also discovered. On July 25th, 2011, just 13 days after Laura went missing, Grant and Amanda were arrested from Grant's parents' house in North Carolina, and they were charged with taking Laura's life.
You got just 1 hour to love me before I catch that midnight train. Just 1 hour to love me.
Grant and Amanda were tried separately, and in true perpetrator-accomplice fashion, both parties turned against each other. Grant said that Laura came to the apartment on July 13th and was apparently threatening Amanda with taking her daughter away, just like how her sons were taken away from her. And that caused Amanda to lash out and attack Laura, ultimately leading to her demise. Grant supposedly only helped to get rid of Laura's body. Meanwhile, Amanda's defense was built on the fact that Grant was very abusive towards her, and she didn't know anything about Laura's passing until they reached Texas. According to Amanda, on July 13th, Laura was visiting Grant and her kids, and during a verbal altercation with Grant, she fell and hit her head, something that Amanda conveniently didn't notice, as she was in the other room with the kids. Anyway, Grant came in and told Amanda that she needed to leave with the children while he could call an ambulance, as Laura was hurt pretty badly. Amanda did as directed and went to Chick-fil-A, and when she came back, Laura was gone and Grant was in the living room. Grant told Amanda that Laura was fine and didn't need an ambulance after all, and that she just went home. Fast forward to the couple reaching Texas, and Grant confessed to Amanda that Laura had indeed passed away. Grant then proceeded to threaten Amanda to help him dispose of Laura's body, to which she agreed because, well, she was afraid of him. Both Grant and Amanda pleaded not guilty, but there was an overwhelming amount of evidence against them, and finally they were both found guilty and both convicted. On September 16, 2013, Grant was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. What's so eerie and disgusting is the fact that Grant showed no remorse for heartlessly attacking Laura and taking her life, and he was all smiles in court. It was as if nothing had even happened, almost like he was preparing to go away on a vacation or something. This man he doesn't even make any sense. After a few months, on February 19, 2014, Amanda was sentenced to 13 to 16 years. At the sentencing, the judge had a very valid opinion about Amanda and her hand in Laura's passing. He said, quote, "I personally believe, based on my view of the evidence, that it's quite possible and likely that Amanda Hayes could have saved the life of Laura Ackerson, and she chose not to. She chose instead to participate in her killing." Amanda, at the sentencing, was remorseful, but it could have just been her acting skills coming forward, because she had every chance to prevent the brutality that Laura went through. But she didn't stop anything. But the thing is, the prosecution was nowhere near done, because Amanda was tried again in Texas for tampering with evidence, and she was given an additional 20 years in prison. Now, the question was, how did the deadly duo actually attack Laura that led to her passing? And what was the reason? Police believe that Laura was lured into Grant and Amanda's apartment on the pretense that she would get to meet her children. It's also believed that Grant lied to Laura about giving her full custody of the children. See, Laura would have never met Grant alone under any circumstances, and even her friends forbade her from doing so. So the only plausible reason as to why she was willing to take a 90-minute trip from Kingston to meet Grant was to see her kids. It's just so heartbreaking now to see how excited Laura was to meet her kids, and she had no clue that Grant had no intentions of letting her leave alive. But what about the letter that was in Laura's handwriting about handing over the custody to Grant? Well, it's believed that once Laura reached the apartment, she was subdued by Grant and Amanda and forced to write the letter and even sign it. Grant probably threatened Laura that if she didn't do what he said, then she would never see her sons again. After writing the letter, she was very tragically attacked, but this is more or less just a theory. We don't know that this is what happened for sure. All we know is that Grant seems to have been doing all of this so that he could take Laura out of the picture for good and begin his new life with Amanda. But that's where things get even worse. After all of this, in October of 2014, Amanda and Grant got divorced. For Grant, all of his trouble, all of this effort, it had now been for nothing. Laura's two sons, Grant Jr. and Gentle, along with Amanda's daughter Lillian, are now in the care of Grant's parents, who are every bit of loving and caring, unlike their father was. It's so sad to see that the two boys were robbed of their mother at such young ages, much less by their father and his manipulative ways. Laura, even after her parents got divorced, was still in contact with her father Roger and her brother Jason. Roger wished that he could have given a better life to Laura, and because of his and Laura's mother's rocky relationship, Laura never truly got to know what love was and was trapped with a narcissistic monster. Roger, after multiple failed marriages, suffered from tremendous heartache, and to see his youngest daughter pass away in such a tragic and devastating way was just unbearable. Roger spent his days in his busy antique store, Collector's Corner Shop, in the historic district of Lowell, where he envisioned Laura as the marketing director of the business if she'd been alive and well, but those dreams were eventually taken away from him. While trying to get custody of Grant Jr. and Gentle, Roger, at the age of 75, unfortunately passed away on February 18, 2021. This case was heinous on so many levels. Laura, a loving mom, responsible daughter, and devoted friend, was so full of life and so sweet and caring, yet she was taken away so savagely by the father of Out of every 10 domestic violence situations, 8 of the victims are women, and 9 of the perpetrators are men. These are the stats from Costa Rica. In 2019 alone, 11 women lost their lives to domestic violence in Costa Rica, and one of them was a 19-year-old single mother, Eva Maria Ulloa. Eva was an activist who had a very stern voice on social media regarding gender-based violence. But what happens when a woman becomes a victim of the very thing she's raising her voice against? Tragically, that's exactly what happened to Eva on the fateful day of November 1st, 2019. Even though the Costa Rican police acted quickly in Eva's case, and the perpetrator was caught immediately, there were countless signs and pleas for help leading up to the crime. Eva's life could have been saved many times over, but unfortunately, that didn't happen. Eva Marrera Ulloa was born in the year 2000 in Costa Rica, and this is also the place where the rest of this tragic case takes place. Not much is known about her childhood, but according to her parents and friends, Eva was defined as a sweet and caring girl. She was also very trusting, and her parents defined her as being a bit naive, but with a heart of gold. Like anyone, Eva interacted with a lot of people on social media, and Facebook was her go-to place for expressing her thoughts with her followers. Eva was a huge advocate for women's rights, and she was a feminist through and through. She raised her voice against a lot of issues surrounding gender-based violence. Facebook was an outlet and a platform for Eva to express her thoughts on the many unfortunate occurrences relating to violence against women that took place mainly in Costa Rica. At the time of the crime in 2019, Eva was studying social work at the Latin University of Costa Rica, while being active on Facebook about her views on gender-based violence and seeking new ways to stop them once and for all. Ava, being the helpful and generous person that she was, also encouraged women to seek help if they ever found themselves in an unfortunate situation, to the point where she even extended her own help to women she knew or people in her friend circle. Ava was doing her part in trying to raise awareness against violence of all kinds, but particularly against women. But as Ava was fighting for women's rights, she was also dealing with something eerily similar to what she was preaching on social media in her personal life. What was even more heartbreaking was the fact that she'd been fighting this battle for years, during which many awful things happened to her. It all started when Ava was just 13 years old. Being naive and a hopeless romantic, Ava had little experience in relationships, and she tended to fall hard and fast for the people that she was interested in. And that's exactly what happened when teenage Ava had her very first and probably longest lasting experience in love and relationships, with a man named Randall Oviedo. Randall Oviedo lived super close to Ava. Their houses were about 5 blocks away and they saw each other all the time. When Ava was only 13, Randall was 20. He was legally an adult, which is very alarming, but the two quickly got into a relationship regardless. There were countless red flags surrounding Randall, but it seems that Ava was completely unaware of most of them. For starters, Randall was heavily involved in drug dealing and a trafficking gang in San Pablo, a nearby district of Costa Rica. This operation was mainly led by his brother and other people that he knew closely. Randall's job was to supply the product to buyers, and it's shocking to think that a young 20-year-old man would be the main supplier of such a dangerous and shady business, but it seemed that Randall loved his work. Ava knew that Randall wasn't the most morally ethical person. This relationship had no future, and anyone from the outside could see it, but Ava wanted to make it work because she truly loved and cared about Randall. This makes everything about the case all the more sad and tragic. Understandably, given Randall's background and relatively big age gap, Ava's parents did not approve of their daughter's relationship. They tried very hard to reason with Ava that Randall was a bad influence on her, and they tried to persuade Ava to end her relationship with Randall. But Ava was already under Randall's spell, and she was so enamored by him that she didn't want to see reason or logic. This led to something very unexpected. Soon after Ava and Randall started dating, Ava found out that she was pregnant. She was just 15 years old by this time. Now, this was alarming on so many levels. No matter whether Ava consented to their physical relationship or not, Randall was an adult, and he should have been making reasonable choices, but he didn't. This man had an extensive track record of bad decisions, and it doesn't seem like his involvement with Ava was going to be any different. Randall was known for being a reckless, dangerous, and non-serious man who had only one goal: to manipulate Ava into submission. It's distressing to consider what Randall put Ava through. On many occasions, Randall emotionally, physically, and psychologically abused Ava and drove Ava into a corner of despair, where she couldn't do anything but feel helpless. Ava thought that there was no light at the end of the tunnel. She felt truly trapped by this man. She was slowly beginning to see that Randall was no good for her. But how could she leave? He was so volatile and so dangerous that even if she announced she wanted to end the relationship, he most likely would not be letting her go easily. But something happened that gave Ava another chance at life. See, Randall, with his involvement in such a vile business, so to call it, soon caught the attention of the Costa Rican authorities. Although the gang Randall operated wasn't huge by any means, it was still an illegal business, which meant that Randall and the rest of the members were going to face consequences if they got caught.
Collaboration is smoother than ever with Dell AI PCs that are simple and secure for IT to manage.
Well, luckily, that happened, and Randall and his gang members, including his brother and 3 closest friends, were arrested in early 2016 for drug trafficking, and this was the same time that Ava was due to give birth. This was very hard for Ava as a young and new mother-to-be, but she was determined to bring light into her very dark world, and in mid-2016, while Randall was in jail for drug trafficking for 6 years, Ava gave birth to a beautiful and healthy baby boy. Now, you would think that a baby would change Randall's perspective, and he would try to turn his life around for the sake of his family. But that wasn't the case. Randall actually called Ava immediately after she delivered their baby, but not to wish her well and ask about their son. It was to wish Ava and the baby the worst. Randall was furious over the phone and was lashing out at Ava, terrifying her to no end. Ava, at that point in time, started to become detached from Randall. She was focused on her pregnancy, her baby's birth, and her new life with her son. And this was also the time when Ava finally and fortunately realized that Randall was no good for her, especially after the grueling phone call she received in the hospital. See, there were signs of abuse in the relationship from the get-go, but Ava, being in love and seeing the world with rose-tinted glasses, wasn't ready to accept reality. Randall had tried to isolate Ava from her friends and family, and even resorted to physically abusing Ava whenever she tried to stand up for herself. He was manipulative to the point where Ava wasn't even allowed to see her parents, who she missed desperately. Fortunately, when Randall was arrested and sent to prison, this was a time for Ava to regroup and reclaim control of her life. But Randall, being the manipulator he was, tried to control Ava even behind bars. Randall would constantly call Ava from prison, trying to persuade her to get back together with him. But Ava held her ground. She focused all of her time on her baby and her studies, and even broke up with Randall to start a new relationship. But things were anything but perfect. See, Randall had no idea about Ava being in a new relationship, and she'd moved on with her life. He got wind of this from one of his brothers, who wasn't in prison, claiming that he saw Ava with another man. This information infuriated Randall, because he realized he no longer had control over her. Now, not only had he lost his girlfriend at this point, but his son as well. Now, you would think that Ava's new relationship was better than her previous one, but that wasn't the case. Her current partner also mistreated and abused her, which led Ava to seek help from the National Institute for Women. This is essentially a platform for women to seek professional help and report their abuse, and hopefully be given a hand to help them out of the bad situation that they found themselves in. Ava got professional help and even legal advice as to how to protect herself from violence coming from someone who she was in a relationship with. Unfortunately, Ava found herself in a position that many men and women find themselves in time and time again. You'd think that if you fell for the wrong person once, you'd make dang sure not to do that a second time. But this sort of behavior often becomes a pattern, an endless cycle. It leads so many people down the wrong path because they feel like they keep falling for the same type of person again and again. And let's be honest, that's exactly what's happening. But it's not the victim's fault. This type of thinking, this type of attraction, for lack of a better word, becomes so easy to get trapped in that it feels like it attaches itself to your DNA. It becomes a part of who you are. So much so that you can't even begin to fathom how to change this pattern of thinking. This is why so many people begin to blame themselves, but that never ends well. And that's such a disturbing way of looking at the situation. Thankfully, Ava knew that there was a way out, and kudos to her for seeing the danger of the path before her and finding professional help before it was too late. This was the point in her life where Ava decided to advocate for women's rights, and she did so by expressing her very moving thoughts on Facebook. She also took part in many of these awareness movements and campaigns, and in one of them she was seen with her son, holding a sign that read, "In my family, there's no room for hate." Ava, now feeling more empowered than ever, went to the family court of Costa Rica and got a protective order against her ex-partner, Randall. But a simple sheet of paper would be no help, because evil was closing in on Ava fast, and she was about to experience the most horrific thing someone could ever witness in their life.
Beauty brings joy. Joy we all deserve, because beauty is about possibilities, and only Ulta Beauty invites you to explore them all. Here, beauty is your playground, where you can find exactly what you need and discover something you never knew you needed. From splurge-worthy indulgences to your favorites that are priced to play, and everything in between. Find all the brands you can't live without and the ones you're dying to try. Beauty is for all. The joy of all things beauty, all in one place.
At Vistaprint, we print signs so people can see your brand up close. But we also print signs so that people can see your business here, see it here, and see it here, so you stand out. Even when they're way back here. Get 20% off signs and banners at Vistaprint.com.
See it now? God Army.
Remember that Randall was supposed to serve 6 years behind bars for his drug-related charges? Well, oddly enough, he was released within 3 years on good behavior. As you may have guessed, Randall constantly followed Ava around as soon as he got out of prison. persuading her to get back together with him and trying to force her to let him see his son, the same son who he wished the worst for on the day of his birth. If that doesn't make your blood boil, then I don't know what will. Ava, even though she had no plans on getting back together with Randall, wanted their child to have a somewhat stable family unit. So Ava, trying to do what was right, made regular visits to Randall's house to try to normalize things as best she could, without getting Randall's hopes up, that is. Ava had made it clear time and time again that the reason for their meetings was only for Randall to see his son and nothing else. But Randall wasn't backing up. He constantly tried to get Ava back, which was why she was forced to take out an order of protective measures against him. Fast forward to November 1st, 2019. It was just another normal day for Ava, and she got herself and son dressed to go meet Randall at his house. At that time, Randall's parents were also present in the house, although they were on the upper level, and Ava and Randall were downstairs. Also, it's important to note that there was another child present in the house at the time. It was a 5-year-old daughter who was Randall's child from a previous relationship. Keep this detail in mind because we'll get back to that in just a minute. As we discussed, Ava had gotten into the habit of letting Randall meet his son over the past couple of months. And on November 1st, Ava and her baby boy, who was now 3 years old, went to Randall's house to meet him and let him spend time with their son. But Randall had other very malicious intentions on that day. Shortly after Ava arrived, Randall continued to bother her, saying that they should get back together. Now, Ava was understandably sick and tired of hearing these empty words from Randall. She knew that Randall only wanted to control her, and their getting back together only meant that Randall had something to exercise control on. The constant persuasion from Randall angered Ava, and unsurprisingly, a verbal argument ensued. It was very heated, and that is never a good sign. Now, it's unclear what led to the sudden escalation of the situation, as the only people who can tell what really happened are Ava and Randall. But things got really bad really fast. At some point during their argument, Randall pulled out a weapon, pointed it at Ava, who had her back to him and was completely clueless, and fired twice. While this attack on Ava was bad enough, we can't forget there were children in this room. Both Ava's son and Randall's daughter from the previous marriage. They both witnessed the crime firsthand. Considering these kids were the ages of 3 and 5, it stands to reason that they'll both likely remember this moment for the rest of their lives. And the fact that this horrific act was carried out by their father, no less, is beyond words. As Ava was lying on the floor, fighting for her life with 2 fatal shots to the head, luckily Randall's parents, who had heard the commotion and the deafening gunshots, immediately called the police. Neighbors also heard the shots, and they also called the police. And with a stroke of luck, the police arrived within minutes at the scene, and the parents wasted no time in throwing their son Randall under the bus. They knew that Randall was manipulative, abusive, and very violent, and he wasn't above committing such a heinous act to get the upper hand. The police immediately arrested Randall, who was trying to make a run for it, while emergency services rushed to Ava's side. Ava had a very weak pulse, and it was a race against time to get her to a hospital. She was immediately loaded into an ambulance and taken to the nearby hospital. But upon arrival, sadly, 19-year-old Ava had succumbed to her injuries and passed away. The whole situation was just too much. After Ava's tragic and sudden passing, the police had to execute another gut-wrenching task, and that was to inform Ava's family. Ava's parents were at home just 5 blocks away from where Ava was tragically attacked. And when they received the call from the police, Ava's mother, Alina, remembers the scene so vividly. She felt that time had stopped when she heard Ava's name from the police. She was immediately called to the scene. Police cars and crime scene tapes surrounded the house, and it was a horrible situation. When a police officer inquired Alina about what Ava was wearing when she left the house, Alina was stunned into silence. She didn't want to jump to conclusions, so she answered and confirmed her daughter's attire. And it was at that moment that the police broke the worst news any mother could hear. The police told Alina that Ava had been attacked by her ex-partner, saying, quote, "Ma'am, I wish I could tell you that it's not your daughter, but it is." Ava's parents had their entire world shattered in just one single night. Randall's parents were of great help because they helped the police in locating the weapon used on Ava, which was unsurprisingly illegally owned by Randall. It was found wedged in a brick wall behind the house, and it was immediately taken as evidence by the police. After his arrest, it would soon come to light that Randall, aside from operating a drug ring, had a very turbulent past and was also involved in crimes like simple and aggravated robbery, dating back several years before his arrests for the trafficking ring. It just goes to show that Randall was a danger to society from the very beginning, and he was a seasoned criminal. Remember, some of these crimes took place when he was just a teenager. This man was the living embodiment of evil through and through, but thankfully, his reign of terror was nearly over. Ava's funeral was held on November 3rd, 2019, which was a Sunday. Ava was laid to rest by her mourning parents, friends, and other people who admired her spirit and vision. Ava's passing was becoming national news, and people were stunned and saddened by her tragic passing. The president of Costa Rica, Carlos Alvarado, came forth with a statement on Ava's tragic demise, and he said, quote, "I'm deeply saddened by the murder of Ava and all the other women who've been victims of violence." For some background, Costa Rica has been plagued with a lot of incidents that involve violence and subsequent murders of women, all rooted in a problem that affects their society as a whole: gender-based violence. After Ava's devastating passing, the custody of her son was granted to Ava's parents, who were treating him with all the love and attention that Ava would have wanted to shower him with in her own life. Tragically, this young man will have to live without his mother and father, and with the memory of his father aiming the weapon at his own unsuspecting mother, which is just so frightening and devastating for a child to witness. I cannot imagine the trials that this poor young man is going to go through. This type of trauma, there's no cure for. There's no amount of therapy that'll take away what this little boy witnessed that evening. In July of 2021, 2 years after Randall had attacked and taken Ava's life, the trial began. This was a trial that everyone was looking forward to because it was the only way by which justice would be served to Ava, and the only way her family would finally be able to find peace. The prosecution presented evidence of abuse in Ava and Randall's relationship, along with witness testimonies, and they stressed on the fact that Randall was violent towards Ava, and he had every intention of ending her life on the day of the crime. Randall's defense claimed that Randall acted in a fit of jealous rage on the day of the crime, when he saw that Ava received an intimate video call from another man, which is such a joke of a defense claim. It makes me wonder if this defense team even believed in the case from the beginning, or if they were just pulling this stuff out of thin air to ensure that this man went to prison. In the end, the jury deliberated and Randall was found guilty. He was given the maximum sentence, which was 35 years in prison. Unfortunately, that means this man will very likely be released one day and still have a good chunk of his life ahead of him. Meanwhile, Ava's family is left with a wound that will never heal. They couldn't have ever imagined that their daughter would be taken away from them so soon in such a vicious way. Ava was someone who fought for women's rights and gender-based aggression, but she got trapped in the same web and sadly
Italian sausage, bacon, and pepperoni for only $8.99. That's the lowest price in 3 meat pizzas. Right, Professor Amon-Ra?
Meat plus meat plus meat equals...
The 3-meat treat. Order for $8.99 and get your game day delivered with Little Caesars.
Pizza, pizza.
Each year, countless individuals disappear from the face of the earth. Despite the help of family and friends, as well as the efforts of the police departments, some of these people are never found. Number 10. Melissa Ann Montoya is a Native American woman from New Mexico. The 42-year-old enrolled as a member of the Jicarilla Apache Nation Reserve. In 2001, she was living with her boyfriend in a secluded area of Colorado and was working on a nearby ranch. According to members of her family, the two had been involved in a tense relationship, which resulted in Melissa being too afraid to leave him. It was for this reason that her family offered her a place to stay. She declined this offer, though, saying that she didn't want to be a burden to them. On the 9th of March of that year, Melissa headed out to the Apache House of Liquor, where a St. Patrick's Day party was being held. The local pub had been nicknamed the Zoo, located at 13605 U.S. Highway 64 in Dulce. At the party, she met up with her younger cousin, and the two spoke at length for at least an hour. It sounded as though Melissa was getting ready to end her relationship with her boyfriend. Later that evening, she caught up to one of her friends. The two began talking when they were approached by a man who's believed to be Melissa's boyfriend. They got into a brief argument, and the woman demanded some space. An hour later, the man approached again, instructing her that it was time to go. She walked out of the bar with the man following closely behind, and after this, Melissa was never seen or heard from again. As soon as the investigation began, the boyfriend was the first to be interviewed. During his interrogation, he claimed he wasn't at the bar that evening, but witnesses claimed to have seen him there. The man concluded that he knew nothing about his girlfriend's disappearance, and due to the lack of evidence, he couldn't be tied to any crime. Not long after, he passed away, and his Colorado home was found to have been burned. The authorities searched through what was left of the property but found no evidence of Melissa there. Within a month of her disappearance, the Jicarilla Apache Nation Police Department began to investigate the event as well, along with the BIA. The case saw slow movement, though, and very little progress. It was as though the woman had fallen from the face of the earth. Earlier this year, attorney and friend of the missing woman, Darlene Gomez, received an email referring to remains that had been found in Dulce. The remains had actually been found 4 years prior and tested positive as female, but improved technology found that they were actually the remains of a Native American male. This meant that family, friends, and the community still had no answers about the missing woman. The raised hope was flushed out, and Melissa remained missing. Darlene has spent the last 2 decades fighting for answers in this case, but to no avail. The big smile and sweet nature of the missing woman continued to haunt the community, and family and friends described Melissa as being fierce, strong, and independent. At the time of her disappearance, she had black hair and brown eyes. She's said to be 5 feet and 7 inches tall, weighing around 155 pounds. According to the missing person database, Melissa is believed to have been wearing contact lenses, blue jeans, and brown boots when she vanished. Any information regarding the whereabouts of this missing woman should be directed to the Jicarilla Apache Nation Police at 575-759-3222. Number 9. 33-year-old Minnie Yvette Taylor is originally from Haynesville, Louisiana. She's known to most as Yvette, favoring her middle name. In 1999, she moved to El Dorado, Arkansas with her boyfriend and daughter. Due to life struggles, Minnie sent her daughter to live with her grandmother in Spring Hill, Louisiana, and then with her other grandmother in Haynesville. Minnie and her boyfriend were living in a duplex on School Street. The home was just 2 blocks away from Easy Mart, the location where she would last be seen. It was on the 26th of May in 2002 when Minnie was seen at the Easy Mart convenience store in the 400 block of West Hillsborough Street. The circumstances surrounding her disappearance remain unclear. No one knows if she left the area on foot or by vehicle. All that's certain is that the mother hasn't been seen or heard from since. Days later, a friend reported Minnie missing to the El Dorado Police Department, who stated that there was very little to go on with regard to the suspicious disappearance. They interviewed anyone and everyone that she knew, but found no key information or any new leads that would lead to her whereabouts. But strangely though, Minnie isn't the only one who's gone missing in the same area. Just 1 year later, a woman named Jacinthia Robinson disappeared from El Dorado. Both women are said to be of a similar build and were known to frequent the same area prior to their disappearances. It's uncertain if these missing person cases are related or not, but neither of them has been solved. Investigators believe that the woman may have met with foul play, but no concrete evidence has been produced to confirm or deny this suggestion. No persons of interest have been named either, leaving her case unsolved. Minnie's daughter graduated from high school in 2014 and still regularly checks in with the El Dorado police for any updates on her mother's case, but there still haven't been any. The disappearance was also brought up on Reddit in a subreddit called Grateful Doe. One user submitted an image of Minnie Taylor alongside a 2002 Pulaski County Jane Doe, but there was no match between the two, and she was ruled out as a possible identification for the unidentified victim. Minnie Taylor has been described as an African-American woman with black hair and brown eyes. At the time she went missing, she stood at a height of 5 feet 3 inches tall, weighing between 120 and 150 pounds. The only distinguishing characteristics listed in the case are the scars she has on both arms. At the time she went missing, Minnie was 27 years old and would now be 49. It isn't known what the missing woman was wearing at the time that she went missing. Any information regarding this case can be directed to the El Dorado Police Department at 870.
ISP Supplies is a certified Ubiquity distributor. We provide a comprehensive selection of Ubiquity products, encompassing Unify gateways, Wi-Fi solutions, switching devices, security cameras, door access systems, VoIP telephony, as well as USB fiber, routing and switching equipment, and a variety of wireless options such as LTU, AirMax, AirFiber, and Wave 60 GHz technology. We are network engineers with decades of experience designing, building, operating, and maintaining networks of different sizes, capacity, and purposes. Our team is passionate about helping IT integrators build
0881-4810. Number 8. The missing person case of Robert Wayne Connor remains one of the most frustrating disappearances in Claremont, North Carolina. 62-year-old Robert was living alone on a 200-acre property near US 70 East in Claremont. He was described as a very dependable individual, and according to family and friends, it was uncharacteristic of him to just vanish. On the night of the 18th of July, 2003, Robert was seen at the Boxcar Grill restaurant located on North Oxford Street. He'd been seen at the bar, but no one knew where he'd gone after this. 6 days later, the man's daughter was forced to report her father missing to the Catawba County Sheriff's Office when she was unable to make contact with him. An investigation was carried out, revealing an eerie atmosphere to the entire case. At Robert's home in the 4100 block of Highway 70, police found his vehicle in beloved Datsun named Rusty. The truck, though, had been parked in a strange place, and Rusty appeared hungry and frantic. The atmosphere wasn't helped when Robert's daughter found uncollected mail jutting out of the mailbox. They also discovered 14 unanswered messages on the answering machine, and his firearm, a .357 Magnum, was missing. The scene instilled a sense of uneasiness. Everything at the house was uncharacteristic. According to the Hickory Daily Record, the daughter explained that she believed her father had met with foul play, and that if he had been, there was a creek nearby that he could have hidden in. The creek that the woman was referring to was Lyle Creek, which was also thoroughly searched when Robert was reported missing, along with Connor Park and the surrounding areas. Despite the best search efforts, no clues were unearthed directing police to the man's whereabouts. 3 years later, though, they received an unexpected tip. This tip led them to a pond 3 miles from Robert's house and near Bunker Hill School. They searched the pond there but found nothing. The same year, the detectives involved in the investigation interviewed the last person to have seen the man prior to his vanishing, John Franklin Dixon. But nothing came of this interview, and no new crucial leads presented themselves. Robert was simply gone, his home disarranged, his dog alone, and no clues as to his whereabouts ever arose, declaring this missing person case the most frustrating in Claremont. Despite having no concrete evidence, police officers too believed that the man met with foul play. Robert's case was posted on the Facebook page of the Missing Person Cases Network and gained attention on Reddit. Many Reddit users who live or previously lived in the area pointed out possible areas where Robert could have ended up, including Little Mountain, situated near his home. Robert Connor is described as a Caucasian male who stands at a height of 6 feet and weighs around 210 pounds. At the time he went missing, he had gray, balding hair and a full beard. His eye color, though, has gone unspecified. Robert's casual wear includes a white t-shirt, overalls, and a hat. He was also known to wear a gold chain necklace with a gold nugget, a silver Timex, and a Citizen brand watch. Any information regarding the whereabouts of this missing man should be directed to the Catawba County Sheriff's Office at 828-465-8301. Number 7. Margaret Haddocken McEnroe was born on the 25th of August, 1977, to Terry Deal in Livingston, Illinois. Her mother gave her up for adoption, and she found herself taken in by Aileen and Patrick Haddocken. Margaret grew up to be the oldest of 4 adopted children in New Jersey. She later enlisted in the Army and completed her basic training at Fort Jackson in 2001. For another 2 years, she was stationed in the Army as a mechanic in Fort Riley, Kansas. During this time, she found her birth mother, and the two enjoyed a close relationship. In 1999, she was awarded a Valor Award as a volunteer firefighter for her rescue efforts in Bound Brook during Hurricane Floyd. In 2004, Margaret was discharged and ended up marrying her longtime friend, Timothy McEnroe. The couple had 2 children together, with an added daughter from a prior relationship. Margaret was living an eventful life. She was named a hero and was establishing a family of her own. Unfortunately, this progression would come to an abrupt end when she
In August of 2022, 52-year-old Tina Frey and her 21-year-old daughter, Victoria Brimmer, were accused of abusing animals at their business in Lena, Louisiana. The Cypress Arrow Kennel and Canine Academy fell under investigation after police received complaints. Around the same time, a video that appeared to show Frey striking a cane Corso dog went viral on social media, resulting in her arrest. Despite Frey's claims of innocence, prosecutors remained intent on moving forward with a criminal case against her. In the meantime, she was sued in civil court. Frey was also prosecuted for financial crimes relating to her business in November of 2023, resulting in a guilty plea and a 5-year probation sentence for theft of government funds. Following the theft conviction, prosecutors dropped the animal abuse case against Frey and Brimmer. Consequently, Brimmer walked free with no legal consequences. Number 15. Karen and Crystal Young. In July of 2014, 49-year-old Karen Young and her 23-year-old daughter, Crystal Young, landed in legal trouble following a disagreement with their neighbor in Fayetteville, Arkansas. According to police, the altercation began when the neighbor confronted Karen about her behavior towards the neighbor's children. Despite being asked to leave the property, the neighbor allegedly stayed put. Meanwhile, Karen was accused of blowing cigarette ash in the neighbor's face and physically assaulting her, while Crystal wielded a baseball bat in a threatening manner. Karen's son eventually intervened to de-escalate the situation and ensure the neighbor's safety, but the police nevertheless got involved. The Youngs were each charged with aggravated assault and endangering the welfare of a minor. They were held at the Washington County Detention Center pending bond hearings, but updates on the case have not been forthcoming.
We're Elementor, the leading platform for building WordPress websites, and we're here to help you find the rhythm of creation.
Number 14. Consuelo and Isabella. In April of 2024, 56-year-old Consuelo Dalbo and her 18-year-old daughter, Isabella Dalbo, were arrested for allegedly performing illegal butt injections during an undercover sting operation in Cypress, Texas, orchestrated by the Houston Police Department with help from the Federal Food and Drug Administration and Homeland Security. The raid unfolded at a temporary residence where the Dalbos purportedly administered the illicit injections while in town from California at a cost of $6,000 per procedure. Authorities made their entry at a time when the mother-daughter duo were anticipating the arrival of a client. During the operation, agents seized bags containing illegal injectables and medical equipment. Consuelo and Isabella Dalbo were arrested following the bust and now face charges related to unlawful medical practices. In addition to the illegal cosmetic procedures, the pair stand accused of trying to administer Xanax to an undercover officer posing as a client to help them relax before the injections. The pair were eventually released on bond, with their next court date set for April 10th of 2024. As of now, there are no further updates available on this story. Number 13. Dallas Love Field. In November of 2019, 41-year-old Bridget Deku Wilkins and 22-year-old Victoria Danae Wilkins of Los Angeles were apprehended at Dallas Love Field Airport while carrying over 60 pounds of marijuana in their luggage. Their arrest came after a detective at the airport noticed the scent of marijuana emanating from a bag that had arrived on the flight. A drug dog confirmed the presence of illegal substances, leading to the retrieval of the suspicious bag and 3 other pieces of luggage. The women were summoned to the baggage office where Bridget Wilkins confessed to carrying marijuana in her suitcase and consented to a search. During the search, law enforcement discovered meticulously packaged marijuana bundles in the women's luggage. The elaborate concealment involved double bagging, vacuum sealing, and camouflaging the contraband within clothing layers. Wilkins's backpack featured the insignia of the Los Angeles Police Department, a common tactic used by smugglers to avoid drawing suspicion. Following their arrest on suspicion of felony marijuana possession, the Wilkinses were detained at the Dallas County Jail but were later released upon posting a $5,000 bond each. Records revealed Bridget Wilkins's involvement in prior criminal activities, including a conviction for abandonment and neglect of children in 2006, and participation in Operation Fish Fry, a significant phishing scheme investigation resulting in wire and bank fraud conspiracy charges in 2009. Updates on the fate of the two women were not available. Number 12, Carla Thomas and Danielle Tolliver. Just days before Christmas in 2023, 53-year-old Carla Thomas and her daughter, 33-year-old Danielle Tolliver, were accused of attacking and robbing a man in Daytona Beach, Florida. The victim encountered the pair while they were working on an SUV outside a motel and offered his help. At the women's request, he joined them in another vehicle to pick up a scooter. During the drive, the man fell asleep, only to wake up to the two women accusing him of stealing a phone. An altercation ensued, resulting in the man being physically assaulted, losing a tooth, and being stabbed before his phone was taken. He pleaded with the women to release him. Once out of the car, he asked the owner of a nearby home to call for help. He was taken to Halifax Health Medical Center for treatment. Carla Thomas was arrested and detained without bond after being identified as a suspect in a photo lineup. At this time, authorities are still searching for Danielle Tolliver, who faces charges of robbery, aggravated battery, and false imprisonment in connection with the incident.
I may not always love you, but as long as there are stars above you, you'll never need.
Number 11, Amber and Letitia Bennett. In July of 2018, 38-year-old Amber Bennett and 22-year-old Letitia Bennett were accused of advertising illegal pay-to-play services on the now-defunct Backpage website. Their arrests came after officials discovered the advertisement and tasked an undercover investigator with posing as an interested potential client. The undercover made plans to meet with Letitia at a Super 8 motel in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. During the meeting, the parties negotiated a deal, at which point the authorities arrested Letitia. Her mother, Amber Bennett, was found sitting on a staircase near the room. According to investigators, Amber helped Letitia set up dates, posted online ads, and served as a lookout during the encounters. Amber admitted to her involvement in the operation and to having marijuana in her possession. Additionally, authorities discovered an active warrant for Amber's arrest. The outcome of the case is unclear. Number 10. Jacqueline Fegan. In November of 2019, 46-year-old Christina Ferguson and her daughter, 24-year-old Jacqueline Syra Fegan, were arrested in Flint, Texas for allegedly stalking Jacqueline's husband's ex-girlfriend. The suspects were accused of creating and placing objects related to voodoo, witchcraft, and Satanism on the victim's property over a several-month period to cause distress. The items included a pentagram, voodoo dolls, and Latin curses, and featured symbols of horror, death, and destruction, leading the victim to fear for her safety. Surveillance footage supported the accusations, and the pair allegedly admitted to the crimes. The victim ended up in therapy, while the main perpetrator of the crime, Jacqueline, got 15 minutes of fame. An episode of the Netflix show I Am a Stalker was dedicated to her story, and many social media users were of the opinion that the punishment the two women received was excessive. Number 9. The school bus gunner and her mum's plea. In August of 2022, an unnamed 12-year-old girl in New Orleans exited her school bus, entered her home, and returned to the vehicle brandishing a gun. She tapped on the door of the bus with the weapon before her mother ran out of the home and disarmed her. Both the mother and daughter were arrested. They claimed that the girl had been the victim of bullying and had snapped after getting into a fight on the school bus. Following the incident, the mother took to social media after the fact to defend her daughter. She claimed that the girl's school, Achille Academy, did not do enough to stop the bullying, or else the situation would have never gone as far as it did. The mother was widely criticized for this viewpoint, with commenters calling her things like immature and delusional. On the flip side, a local voice on social media reached out to the family of the other girl involved, and her mother claimed that she did not condone bullying and her daughter was no bully. The daughter was charged with aggravated assault, while her mother faced charges of principal aggravated assault and contributing to the delinquency of a minor. She claimed that she did not know how her daughter got the gun and that it was not supposed to be in her possession. Updates on the case are not forthcoming, leaving the outcome of the case a mystery. Number 8. Laura Rose Carroll and Emily Rose Grover. A Florida school official named Laura Rose Carroll was arrested along with her daughter in March of 2021, following a scandal that made national headlines. The 50-year-old reportedly served as the assistant principal at Bellevue.
Love, trust, and a chance encounter. Each of these 5 stories began with the promise of something new, but ended in unimaginable tragedy. None of these victims thought their first dates would end up in death. Join us as we explore the dark twists that turned ordinary moments into chilling crimes. It was March 30th, 2016, in Sydney, Australia. Keith Collins was 53 and ready to start a new life and find love again. Just days before, the businessman had met an interesting woman on Tinder, a popular dating app. The two had hit it off and decided to meet in real life. And now they were enjoying what was supposed to be a nice first date. Except that something terrifying was about to happen, washing away all remains of joy and hope. Having recently separated from his long-term partner, Keith was looking forward to a new chapter in his life. During this period, he met Jovi Pillapil, a 39-year-old mother of 3 and a deputy director of nursing at Uniting Aged Care. The two bonded over their love for their children. Keith was a father of 4 and a stepfather of 3. After connecting on the online dating site, Keith and Jovi decided to meet for dinner. On the night of March 30th, Keith and Jovi were dining at Cangnam BBQ in Westfield Hornsby, a northern suburb of Sydney. It was around 9:30 p.m. local time, and the restaurant was packed. That was when a man dressed in military-style attire entered the restaurant, exuding a dark aura and making a beeline for Keith and Jovi's table. The man was 45-year-old Alexander Villaluna, Jovi's estranged ex-husband, a man who had a history of stalking, abuse and threats against Jovi. Villaluna had spent that evening searching for Jovi. He had contacted her relatives and workplace in a...
With our servers designed for AI, you can revolutionize the way you do business. Power your workloads.
An attempt to locate her. And then he finally tracked her down at the restaurant. Jealous and in a frenzy, Alexander Villaluna approached Keith Collins from behind and without warning asked him what he was doing with his wife. And then, in the middle of a packed restaurant, Villaluna brandished a hunting knife, which he plunged into Keith's neck and collarbone. Villaluna then continued to stab Keith multiple times in the neck and stomach in a brutal and relentless assault. During the chaos, Jovi attempted to stand up and defend herself. That's when Villaluna turned his attention to her, slashing her arm and stabbing her in the abdomen. Then the attacker went back to Keith Collins. By then, Keith was already mortally wounded. He used the last drops of his strength to try to crawl away from Villaluna, but it was useless. Villaluna knelt on Keith as he tried to roll away, repeatedly plunging the knife into his torso until he no longer moved. The attack was swift, vicious, and, as described by witnesses, carried out with a disturbing sense of calm. In the meantime, a seriously injured Jovi managed to get away and hide in a nearby shop. The attack was over. Covered in blood and holding his massive knife, Alexander Villaluna walked calmly as people around him ran and screamed. Villaluna was unnervingly composed. His demeanor gave away no sign of remorse. Shortly afterward, he sat by a fountain and reportedly called Jovi's daughter, calmly admitting that he thinks he killed the guy and that he also stabbed her. The swift arrival of New South Wales police officers led to Villaluna's arrest, where he was confronted by a policewoman wielding a taser. Footage from the scene shows Villaluna surrendering, his hands covered in blood. Meanwhile, emergency services attended to Jovi, who was later taken to Royal North Shore Hospital for surgery to treat her wounds, including a punctured sternum. Nothing could be done for Keith Collins. He succumbed to his injuries. Keith was described as a generous and well-liked individual who significantly impacted those around him. He was the managing director of Elite Packaging Solutions, a company based in West Gosford. Beyond his business endeavors, he was deeply involved in community sports, having served as the president and junior coach of the Terrigal Wamberal Sharks Junior Rugby League Club. His commitment to the club extended beyond coaching, as he often employed young players at his business and sponsored various local teams. Friends and former club members remembered him as a man full of life who treated everyone like family and always motivated the young players to give their best both on and off the field. His tragic death has left a profound void in the lives of his family, friends, and community. Alexander Villaluna was sentenced to a maximum of 34 years in prison for murder and to a maximum of 12 years for wounding. The sentences carry a combined non-parole period of 30 years. On July 29, 2012, Wariena Wright from New Zealand arrived in Australia for a 2-week holiday and to attend a wedding. At 26 years old, Wariena was a beautiful young woman with her whole life ahead. But Wariena's life ended under mysterious circumstances after a seemingly normal encounter with a man she'd met on Tinder took a dark turn. What happened to Wariena Wright, and who, if anyone, was to blame? Known as Ree to her friends and family, Wariena Wright valued her relationships and deeply loved animals. She was petite, cheerful, and intelligent. Wariena was on a 2-week vacation in Australia that summer and planned to return home shortly after her brief holiday.
All right, now
However,
the third one was
her plans took an
Australia.
unexpected turn when she met Gable Tosti on Tinder. Gable Tosti was a carpet fitter from the Gold Coast. At 30 years old, Gable was known for his boisterous personality and tendency to record his interactions with women. He also had an apartment in the Avalon Apartments complex, which offered a panoramic view of Surfers Paradise, an attraction that allegedly charmed women. On the evening of August 7th, 2014, Wariena Wright and Gable Tosti met near his apartment. They had connected on Tinder some days before, but this was their first date. Their night began uneventfully with drinks, conversation, and even some selfies. At some point, the two went to Gable's apartment. However, as the night wore on and both consumed more alcohol, the mood shifted. Gable's habit of recording his dates provided a disturbing and detailed account of the night, capturing how their interaction became increasingly tense and volatile. At one point during the evening, Wariena and Gable's conversation became heated. Gable mentioned that falling from his balcony would be fatal, an ominous statement that would become chillingly prophetic. As Wariena became more inebriated, she allegedly became erratic and aggressive. The audio recording was crucial evidence revealing that Wariena threw decorative rocks and attempted to strike Gable with a telescope. Gable's response was to restrain her physically. Sometime after midnight on August 8, 2014, Gable decided to lock her out on the 14th floor balcony, a decision that would later prove to be fatal. The recording captured a violent struggle, with Wariena Wright screaming in panic and pleading to be let back inside. Gable Tosti, however, refused to open the door, effectively trapping her on the balcony. At one point, he threatened her, saying she was lucky he hadn't thrown her off the balcony. The audio continued to capture her desperate cries to be let inside, muffled through the glass door that separated them. The recording became silent shortly after that, except for faint screams in the background.
Bob works for a company that's using NordLayer's new solution, Cloud Firewall. He can now easily secure his organization network and manage employee access to hybrid resources. The company's CEO, Bobby, can smoothly access the financial reports. System administrators like Bob can securely access all IT assets, while the new intern, Paul, only needs safe access to the internet. And this guy? Well, this intruder doesn't belong in our network. Bye! Get started with NordLayer today and get an extra 20% off on core and premium plans. NordLayer, cybersecurity for business, developed by the standard of NordVPN.
We are back. It's the Victoria's Secret Fashion Show 2024 featuring